because then you can just tell me whatever to do. So a couple years ago, we were trying to do a really real show.
So what are you doing about this tour that's different than a normal tour? How are you preparing for this Christmas tour?
I want our whole crew and Family Force 5 to have a feeling of togetherness.
Put this on first. Put this on first.
Top?
Check. It's happening. This is Fatty.
Like you're in a band.
Alive and well. Just living, you know? Living here.
It was 2 years ago, almost to the day, when...
I'm just living.
All right, sorry. Sorry.
Is that good?
So, Family Force 5 decided to do a Christmas tour this season.
Yeah, it's a terrible start.
I'm doing my stretches.
We set out initially to make 4 really real shows, which would have been number 27.
Go ahead, whenever.
So, wait, hold on, like, I need to talk about just, like, real life then?
So start talking about P90X and the workout.
You know, I was getting a little bit overweight and stuff like that. And I was like, it's about time for Fatty to get back into shape, I guess, right?
And, my brother, Fatty, who's Josh, he started working out. He did P90X. For some reason, it looked like he got really swole overnight. Like he walked into the room, and I was like, "Whoa, this dude is huge! Like he's really, really big right now."
I remember it was pretty hardcore, you know, but it wasn't something that I couldn't handle. Obviously, it was. Next morning, I woke up. I couldn't hardly move. But I've always been that guy that doesn't matter what I'm going to go through. It doesn't matter how I feel. I'm just going to keep going. I'm not going to go to the doctor. I'm not going to do anything to kind of better myself if I'm feeling bad. Every muscle in my body hurt, and I was like, well, yeah, I guess I overdid it a little bit. So I went to the bathroom. When I looked down into the urinal, the color of my pee was about coffee color. And I totally schlepped it off like an idiot. And I was like, oh yeah, pee in black. Oh yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, I didn't really tell anybody. By the time the afternoon had come, I was not peeing at all. And I had drank about 2 gallons of water because I was like, well, maybe I'm just dehydrated. And then they wanted to go and do a really real show on P90X.
I had no clue. He was really struggling.
So I go and do P90X with them as a group.
I was just kind of thinking, maybe it'd be good for the band, for all of us to get in shape.
The band has been putting on some weight ever since we came off the road. You know, we have a little time off. So we're all filming the really real show now. Plus, you know, it's something that brings the band together. And I like that. And he's huge already, and we're like, whoa.
One. I was supposed to be kind of this coach character. I don't want to be like a coach or anything of these guys.
Ain't no time.
We kind of noticed Fatty, you know, kind of slacking off a little bit. So, you know, we decided, you know, this would probably be a great person to focus on and just kind of make the brunt of the jokes of that really real show.
He's doing half the workout.
Fatty I thought it was one of the best acting performances I've ever seen. He looked like he'd been 15 rounds with Tyson.
And I'm already dying from being so sore, you know? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta push through this, you know? I'm a man's man, or whatever you want to tell yourself.
I think I'm gonna have an early grave.
I'm a moron, is what I was. So we did that, and I went back to the bus. I wasn't feeling good.
He came to me and was like, hey, you know, when I pee, it's coming out like brown and black colors. And I was like, whoa, that's weird. You know, like, what, have you been drinking coffee?
They were like, do you need to go to the doctor? And I was like, no, I'm fine. I'll be all right tomorrow.
He's like, no, I'm going to be fine. Let's do the show.
Still not peeing. By this time, I probably had 3 gallons of water in me. Then I started to get ready for the show. I couldn't even put my shirt on. Jacob helped me put my shirt on. And so I've done P90X twice. I'm peeing black. And then we go and we play a show for an hour.
Fatty was not putting forth the energy that he normally would.
like it was weird. Because usually he's like one of the most energetic and most entertaining to watch. And it wasn't like he just had the flu. It was like something was kind of wrong. This is heavy, dude. Like,
It was like Josh was in slow-mo on stage.
getting kind of like bringing it up. Sorry. I just remember there being something wrong. It was something that I could feel. Like, I know that's so weird, but something was wrong.
I was so weak that I couldn't lift a 15-pound guitar off of my shoulders.
He comes down after the show's over and just leans on the toilet and just starts throwing up for no reason.
At that point, I come out, and I'm still this guy. I come out, and I'm like, I'm not going to the doctor.
I thought he had like a kidney stone. I had a kidney stone a few years ago. And
he was like, you need to go to the doctors.
And the next thing I know, Solomon and Isaac and Josh are gone. When somebody goes to the hospital, you know, it's not always initially a huge deal. I just thought he was tired, sore, worn out just from P90X.
P90 didn't work out too much for me.
All of us were like, oh, you know, trying to mask it and be like, oh, it's just a kidney stone.
Isaac Dietz was there with us. We were like, well, you know, let's videotape me going to the hospital. You know, at least we can get a kick out of it.
You know, we're filming. I'm telling Isaac,
You lay back down, dude. You want to play bass tomorrow night?
just keep filming because, you know, we never know. I mean, it could be something hilarious, you know, like it'll be like, oh, he ate a bad piece of cabbage and, you know, all of a sudden he got sick or he got food poisoning. So we never knew.
Successfully, I'll have missed my first show in Family Force 5 ever in my life.
Yeah, you can miss a bunch.
So he was just getting weaker and weaker, and I finally came up to the people and I was like, what do we have to do? And they were like, he has got to, you know, give us a sample of something so we can, you know, officially put him on the ambulance to do whatever. So we're like, come on, dude, pee.
Just keep sipping on it. Like, the more pee you can do, the better everything goes.
But he just couldn't go anymore. It just stopped all of a sudden. He finally gets out like 2 or 3 drops.
It's just good that he just peed, so we can get the ambulance and they can take him over there. See what's really going on with him.
You know, we were kind of laughing.
They hit me with some medicine. It's,
Are you feeling good right now?
What's your pain level now?
Yeah. Is it a 7 or is it like
no, it's
doesn't exist?
It's like I've never had this feeling before in my life.
Is it in the negatives?
He was trying to keep it light, you know, because I was hurting.
You feeling good though? I could pour this hot coffee on you and you'd be alright, right?
Yeah, man.
Insurance is
How's the
right.
pain?
It's good.
Did this happen to you before you get dehydrated? Do you work out a lot?
No. I think that's why I just started back.
Yeah, he ended up doing, you know,
So,
the P90X thing.
Oh, you know what?
I think
Did you tell the doctor that?
No.
Because working out, being dehydrated, your muscles, they release that CPK.
Yeah.
CPK, your kidneys are overworked. Your kidneys will shut down.
The nurse had determined that it was probably renal failure, which is kidney failure. That's when it got like super serious.
Can you imagine doing the marathon without training?
Oh, yeah.
That's what it is.
Still kind of had some hope that, you know, it's just going to be something that will get out in about like an hour or 2.
It's recoverable, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
you have to hydrate. You have to reverse it.
Yeah. Just super hydration now.
Mm-hmm. So you will be hydrated.
Cool. So you want some more apple juice? I guess that's what you just said.
Then I remember getting rolled out of the Minute Clinic into getting put in the ambulance.
Hey, see you, man.
Bye.
I remember being strapped to the ambulance, and the ambulance guy in the back that was taking care of me, he was talking to me an unusual amount, and I was like, why is this guy talking so much? And I guess he was trying to keep me coherent enough not to like fall asleep or whatever. I remember being a little bit nervous at that point because the guy that was helping me out looked really, really, really nervous to be with me. I remember getting to the hospital. They took me to Lake Forest in Chicago.
And they take us into the hospital, they start hooking him up, and then all of a sudden we're answering questions in a questionnaire like, are you ready to talk about his will? Are you ready to talk about insurance? I was like, what? Well, no, we're not going to talk about that at all. We're going to be out of here in like 5 hours. The doctors came in and were like, hey, we're going to move him from here to intensive care unit, and that was super scary.
So I was in and out, and Solly was nervous, and I remember it was me and Solly.
Josh was like, hey, dude, I really feel sick right now. Will you give me that trash can? And so he gets the trash can and he starts throwing up blood. And I was just like, wow, that's when I started to kind of lose it. I was like, man, any movie I've ever seen, people start throwing up blood, that means it's like a big signature to say goodbye to something. So I start crying and start hugging him and like, come on, man, like, what's wrong with you? You know, like, this ain't supposed to happen. We're supposed to be touring right now.
Solly looked at me and started crying, and he got up on top of me when I was in the bed. And he told me that he just wanted to stop the tour and didn't want to go on if I wasn't going to be there. Because he said he couldn't look over to his left and not see me there because I've always been there.
I immediately called my mom and dad. I think it was like 5 in the morning at this point in time. And I was like, hey, I'm up near Chicago. And Josh is going into the ICU right now.
He's like, I don't know what's going on, and nobody's telling me anything at this doctor's office, and nobody's saying that his vital signs are good.
He just hasn't gone to the bathroom, in who knows, like, I don't know, 10 hours.
It wasn't looking good at all. I was like, I have to get to this hospital.
Finally, my parents catch an emergency plane ride. I'm hugging my parents and kind of freaking out.
I've never seen my dad cry like that. It was super hard. At this point, Solly had been there so long that he needed a break, and the show was actually still going on.
I remember looking at him and saying, you can't stop because this helps provide for everybody that's in the bus, so you have to go. You have to go, and you have to do it without me. And I remember him not wanting to go, and he just kind of kept getting up on top of me. He didn't want to leave. He just kind of didn't want to leave me there. And I remember trying to be real strong because I'm kind of that person. I got a soft heart, but I put up a front like I'm some hardcore dude. I told him that it would be okay and that he needed to just go.
My brother Jacob Crouton comes with a car, and he comes to pick me up, so we drive about 2.5 hours to this show later on that night, and we can't stop crying on the way down. We're like, why is our brother in the ICU right now?
All of us were just really, really torn and confused about why are we playing a show right now?
So we get to this place, and we get starting to get dressed for the Christmas pageant.
When we saw those guys arrive, that to me was one of the most telling moments of how severe this situation really was.
When something that crazy happens in your life, there's nothing else that you can think about.
I mean, we kind of huddled up to pray right before the show, and not having Josh in the circle, was really the first time we've ever had that experience.
It was super intense. Like, these kids didn't even know. They're off singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Joy to the World. It was a real sad moment for me because I just missed my brother quite a bit.
We were going out on that stage that night, and I remember we all kind of said, like, do this for Josh.
That night was so hard to go on stage and just have a good time, knowing that you don't have a bass player, you don't have your brother there with you, you don't have your best friend that you've grown up with all your life.
There's just a big hole there, and all you can think of is getting this guy back.
And I remember that being one of the most emotional concerts I've ever been involved in.
And it just didn't feel right. And like when we played, it was just like the parts that we had to sing to cover his parts was just kind of emotional.
I remember Solomon taking a second to explain the situation in the crowd, and it was really hard for him to get the words out. For all of us to hear that it was really powerful.
We're just gonna jump on stage tonight. And he's in the hospital right now, so don't pray for him, alright? We're gonna be hanging out with him after this. We drove about 2 hours to come and party with you guys while our brother is with our parents in the hospital right now. So if you guys can pray for that, I really appreciate it. I really do.
We left after that, and it was a really surreal kind of show.
And we all start crying because we're like, oh my gosh, like, is my brother gonna die? This was the moment in time. And then I was just like, man, is this it?
We bought plane tickets for our wives to come up because we didn't know if this was going to be our last,
We actually canceled a show the following day, went to the hospital. I remember walking in, he's on the wing with, people who are basically on their deathbed.
Like, we're in the ICU. Everybody I see in the ICU is like 2 or 3 steps away from, death.
I've lost 3 out of 4 grandparents. This is the same place that they were. I think that's when it really hit me what was going on.
I looked across the hall once, and one of the nurses was almost in tears.
I was just scared if we kept doing the tour and if he would die, then I wouldn't have my last words with my brother. He was always like, hey, is everybody, are you guys still doing the tour? And I'm like, yeah, I mean.
Against all of our hearts, we kind of do what we have to do and get back out on tour. There's really nothing else that we can do.
We decided to just have a recording of Josh's bass in there because it wouldn't have felt right to replace him at that time. We wanted to show him that we respected him and wanted him there somehow.
All of a sudden you're stuck here alone in a hospital in Chicago, and all you can do is watch the snow collect against the window and look at the ceiling and wait for your next shot, This nurse basically came in and she said, you have renal kidney failure, which means both of my kidneys shut down and your CPK levels are off the charts. Normal CPK levels are about 200, I guess, and the doctor came in and said my CPK levels were at 300,000. She said she'd only seen it about 3 times in 25 years that the levels were that high. And I was like, well, how serious is that? And she was like, well, if you didn't come in when you made it in, she said you would have been dead in 2 days. You know, and I was like, well, what's the outcome? And, you know, you could tell that she was nervous. They were definitely concerned that the kidneys were not going to come back online and I was going to have to do dialysis the rest of my life.
They hooked my brother up to this dialysis machine, and it takes the blood out, cleans it, and then sends it back into your system. And it was crazy.
And it's not something you want to see a 30-year-old going through.
The doctor said it in the nicest way, but like, this is our last hope to, have your brother, be okay. That set me off again. I left the room, couldn't be in there anymore. I really just wanted him to, live on. So.
It was super, super scary.
They would bring in this machine every other day, and I would have to sit there for 4 hours while they pulled all of the blood out of my body and funneled it through this machine and cleaned my blood and put it back into my body.
Even at that point, every time I prayed about it, there was some kind of reassuring kind of warmth about it that was just, it's going to be okay. What okay meant, I really didn't know.
Finally, I started to pee a little bit, but it was like little bits of drops here and there.
We finally get that call and find out that he's peeing.
I told the crowd that night, I was like, look, man, y'all don't know what kind of a big deal this is, but my brother peed tonight. The crowd went nuts, and they're like, oh.
He had been in the ICU for 12 days.
So he gets out of that, gets into a normal room, regular room. Is there a regular room in a hospital?
I could get up out of the bed now, and I had a walker with a bag, and I was still connected to a bunch of stuff. And
we hear he's walking around for hours.
The doctors would have to come and find me in the hospital because I was just walking everywhere. I went down and I saw where all the babies were coming out and being delivered. And I kind of knew the hospital like the back of my hand. They were still unsure, They were like, you're probably going to have to do dialysis for the rest of your life. But the cool thing is they have dialysis centers all over the world. So it was like, oh, great. So at that point, that's when everything started to hit me, because it was like you might not get better. Your kidneys might not come back online. At that point, I found the chapel in the hospital, and I would go down there and I would just be on my face every day praying. It's that classic thing where I'm gonna get through it on my own. And like when you're a week and 5 days into intensive care and there's specialists all around you and you're doing dialysis and you got ports coming out of your neck, you're still having a hard time peeing, and they come back and they tell you that you're gonna have to be on a machine the rest of your life. You start thinking, well, I've got another solution, and this other solution is this guy that I believe in named Jesus. And at that point, I just kind of broke down. It was weird to kind of walk into a chapel in a hospital. Read the Bible a lot while I was in there, and stayed on my face a lot while I was in there. And I had times where all I would do was go down in there, and I would cry. And I basically, I didn't know if I was going to kind of make it or if I wasn't going to make it. And I would just cry, and I would be like, take care of my family. And I'm about to peace out and go home, and I wasn't ready. Nobody's ready to go home. Everybody talks about, let's go to heaven. Nobody wants to go to heaven immediately. When you're faced with death, it's a different thing, man. Makes you want to change who you are, be a better person. change things that you do. And I just remember wanting everybody that was working for me and my family to be okay, and my brothers to be okay. I really didn't care about myself at that point. I didn't want to leave. So there was a lot of like come to Jesus meeting with God in the hospital for me. I wasn't angry, but I was 28. And I was like, what is this? Is this the end of my life? This is it? I kind of been at peace, and I was like, whatever, God, I'm cool with whatever. It's like I was just concerned about my family.
When everything else is stripped away, what do you have left? And that's your relationship with God and your relationship with other people.
And they were like, your kidneys they're not fully functional, but they're coming back online, so we're gonna send you home. And I remember being so excited. That day I called Sally and told everybody on tour that I was gonna go home.
That was a relief that night. It was a really good night, and I think we all kind of celebrated.
I was walking across the parking lot the first time I'd been out in 2 weeks. And I ran into a nurse that was there the first day that I checked in, and she literally started running from where she was standing and hugged me and started crying. And she was like, you don't understand how bad you looked when you came in the first night. And she was like, all of the nurses on that floor that night got together and prayed for you. I landed in Atlanta, and the next day I was supposed to go and have my first dialysis appointment. And I remember showing up, and I was sitting in the waiting room for about an hour waiting to go in to do dialysis, and the doctor saw me. I came back out, gave him the urine sample, and I'm just praying the whole time. I remember praying before I went in. I remember praying with my dad crying and praying. And I remember the doctor came out and he was like, I'm going to send you home. You don't need to do dialysis. You don't have to do it anymore. And I was like forever? And he was like, as long as you take care of yourself. When he told me that, and it was such a relief that it was like I'm not going to have to go and search out dialysis centers all over the United States. And it was a blessing. Sally was one of the first people that I saw. I just remember like seeing him and like being like, oh man, I missed you.
I'm really glad that my brother's living.
It's something I'll never forget, and something that I hope to never relive.
It was a tough time, but it taught us a lot.
I'm glad he's here with us right now and rocking out with us.
All right, let's see, 2 years ago, we started this thing off, and after the second date, my brother, who plays the bass, he got super sick, almost died. Everybody prayed for him, and everybody sang a bunch of notes and stuff, and he got healed up and everything.
I mean, can you imagine this? We thought he was gonna be dead, and he's back, and he's playing rock and roll, and we are dancing, and it is just party time.
I don't ever want to go through that again.
We all kind of got together and just became better friends. Just even praying with the guys right before the show that we had to do one night. It was super intense.
We have to have that togetherness, because we are a family, and we want that to happen. Togetherness. Hey.